Arkansas's Jordan Walsh is staying in the NBA draft. This is Floor and Ceiling. Let's break him down. Jordan Walsh measures out really well for a wing, similar to Robert Covington or Trevor Ariza, at 6'7" in shoes and super long with a near 7'2" wingspan and a frame that will keep filling out. At Arkansas, he showed enticing flashes of two-way activity, off-ball usage, and if you looked hard, potentially a shot in the future. But for all the good, I also think that Walsh's overall playmaking potential went under the radar, largely because he had to play next to Anthony Black and Nick Smith Jr. More on that later. But for now, let's get into what Walsh did well in his one and only year with the Razorbacks. The 19-year-old wing arrived at Arkansas as a 5-star recruit, but he wasn't exactly used like one. Walsh came in and out of the starting lineup, and he had the lowest usage rate out of any of Arkansas's regular rotation players. In my opinion, he was at his best off the ball, and that came in a variety of ways, which was good to see. Generally, just getting Walsh moving towards the rim, whether he's cutting, catching and finishing, or filling the lane, is a good idea. He is a big, long athlete, even if he is still working on making those tools functional all of the time. At this juncture in Walsh's development, his athletic potential is on display the most when he's crashing the boards. This season, he had 13 putbacks. Walsh's advanced numbers at Arkansas are not going to catch your attention, but I broadly think that his effort and tools will. Really, he's super long, with almost a 7'2" wingspan, but also a gargantuan 8'11" standing reach. That alone gives him a big rebounding radius that other wings don't have access to, but then it's also his relentless motor. That's how Walsh this year had some huge tip dunks. But whenever you look closer at Walsh's stats though, they're really modest. As a freshman, he averaged 7 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist. Most of the Arkansas wing's shots came at the rim, but I prefer him attacking the basket when he's off the ball. Otherwise, Walsh has barely shown any self-creation skills at the highest level that he's played in so far. If one squints, you can see some glimpses of what he might be able to do in the future, but I don't think that his process right now translates into the NBA immediately or even in the short term. Outside of attacking a closeout from time to time, I think that the jury is still very much out on what Walsh can truly do off the bounce. In his senior year of high school at Link Academy in Missouri, we did see some more expansive flashes. A big part of this comes down to reps. Walsh got those at Link, and he didn't get them at Arkansas, where the team already had plenty of initiators. Similar to when he cuts off the ball, he's like a freight train if he's getting to the rim and has the rock. Walsh can then pass or score. The 19-year-old has shown glimpses of leveraging his length well to create separation, but he also has a powerful first step that is going to mesh well with the NBA. Importantly, he showed some stuff outside of only transition play. Of course, take these clips with a grain of salt, but they're still worth analyzing. Overall though, Walsh still has plenty of improvements to make near the basket. He wasn't efficient in general as a freshman, making 43% of his field goals, even if that is a little better with his 51% true shooting. But strictly at the basket, that's where Walsh took more than 4 in 10 of his shots. He converted on just 60%, which is definitely improvable. For the role that he played, his volume was okay, so clearly he's capable of getting to the rim. However, he's a little wild there. Walsh gets out of control relatively easily, and I think he gets rushed very often. This has been an issue dating back to pre-season. Walsh has the means to get to the rack, but he lacks the technique and timing to finish. At Arkansas, his high school flashes never really popped up. His handle wasn't creative enough, his finishing wasn't versatile, and I also feel like Walsh has an over tendency to play off of 2 feet, which in turn doesn't make the most of his Diving into some of what could make the Arkansas man stand out, it's the passing. He did have less assists than games in college, so that might surprise you, but Walsh played with the ball in his hands a lot more previously. He averaged 3 assists as a high school senior on a strong team and 5 assists as a junior, compared to barely 1 at Arkansas. Now, these are tiny flashes, but I think Walsh has shown that he can make the right read off a live dribble or over defenses. Walsh barely got to display his ball handling upside in college, but to be clear, I'm not saying that this will be a big part of his NBA future. I'm just saying, it could be in a way that we didn't get to see lately. For this to happen though, Walsh is gonna have to be more accurate, and yet again, just play more under control. He's prone to committing unforced, frustrating turnovers. The game still moves too fast for Walsh, so it's more than reasonable that Arkansas didn't really give him any creation reps. Because despite some of the promise that he showed in high school, he wasn't even consistent with those before he got into college. And it's also worth saying that any passing from Walsh will mostly come in scramble, open court settings, rather than slower, deliberate half-court environments. Walsh's shot right now is very much theoretical. In my last video, I said that Bobby Klintman had an underrated safe ceiling because he could still be effective in a downscaled 3-and-D type of role. Throughout his trajectory, the Swede has made enough threes as a complementary piece to make me believe that. However, I can't say the same for Walsh. His context is totally different in that he played with the ball in his hands much more in high school, and then really that got taken away from him in college. That adjustment is a factor when accounting for his poor numbers, but it also makes Walsh's floor much less clear for me. He always plays hard, but he's not anywhere close to consistent with his finishing, passing, or shooting. This season, a third of Walsh's shots were threes, and he only made 28%, which is not good. The most threes that Walsh made in a game at Arkansas was 2, and he didn't make a triple in about 3/5 of the games that he played in. Right now, Walsh can only really hop into threes. Any other way from the perimeter, you can't really use him. With his jumper, I find his lower body inconsistent, and even though the upper half I guess is better, I'm not convinced either. Sometimes it's almost like Walsh is too long. And he has soft touch to an extent, but it just hasn't really manifested in any of his scoring numbers from anywhere. So am I completely out on Walsh's shot? Well, not exactly. I just think it's gonna take plenty of time, and some teams do not have that. This is likely his swing skill, especially on offense, given that he's not exactly excelling at any other thing right now. So if Walsh isn't making any shots, the lanes that close off will hurt him, but also his teammates who are trying to set him up. This season, he did make 19 two-point jumpers, but that came within a greater 36% clip. At Link Academy, Walsh wasn't a non-willing shooter. In fact, he had some sauce here and there that makes me optimistic. Defenses will be happy to let him shoot, but if Walsh can make an easy jumper out of a single dribble so that he can attack a closeout or things like that, that's already a huge improvement. Still, the biggest growth that I'm going to want to see will just be making the easiest threes. Walsh absolutely has to make his spot-up looks. 28% from deep is nowhere near good enough. He's gonna have to raise this percentage, ideally by nearly 10 points, which is very tough. But I think the blend of skills that Walsh has signs of is really interesting. So if you're not in a rush for instant contribution, he's definitely worth investing in. On defense, it's a matter of projection with Jordan Walsh and how comfortable you are doing that. He definitely has the means to be real good on this side of the ball, and I want to start off by showcasing his switchability. I really think that this will be how Walsh makes a name for himself on D. Obviously, he's really long, but it's also how good he is at getting low to the ground and moving fluidly. You can use Walsh on a lot of different attackers, including shooters, guards, this, by the way, goes back to high school. Walsh either can switch or straight up just pressure the point of attack. And he's also capable, obviously, of guarding wings. I wonder eventually how he's going to do against the bigs. He'll have to get a little stronger, but overall, Walsh is the type of defender who's going to be switchable at least 1 through 4. He is super tough to get over or around, but his motor is also endless. He's a dog. This has always been the case, and it's going to continue to be so. Walsh never gives an inch. He's gonna make multiple efforts over and over, and every single night, you're bound to get a few big plays from him defensively. Still, his insatiable appetite on this side of the floor also needs to be controlled. It's a similar story to down the other end. Really, Walsh has all the means, but he's still learning how to be most effective on the floor. The Arkansas wing has tremendous defensive upside, but he's not ready off rip, largely because he fouls too much. This was already a problem in college, where at Arkansas, Walsh averaged about 5 fouls per 40 possessions. Against higher quality opponents, that figure went up. I'm not worried. I'm confident that Walsh will be a good defender. In fact, a huge part of his NBA future hinges on it. But in order for him to be that good defender, he needs to be able to stay on the floor. So once we get to the point in a few years where Walsh has reined in his instincts and really understands how to utilize them better, then Walsh is definitely the type of long, strong defender at the wing that every NBA team these days is taking a look at. I would expect Jordan Walsh to be drafted by a team in the second round that knows they can invest into him long term. Really, it's a matter of consistency for Walsh with everything though. Passing, driving, finishing, shooting, everything, and then he's got two-way tools, but again, on that end, he's got to learn to play under control. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a comment telling me what you think about Jordan Walsh. And as always, if you enjoy the channel, if you want to watch more content like this, make sure to subscribe. Take care, and I'll catch you guys next time.